Hi folks, hope you're okay. Today I just want to talk to you about Justin Martyr, 100 to 165, and I just want to read a couple of things that he says. He says, "For as in the beginning he created us when we were not, so do we consider that in like manner those who choose what is pleasing to him are on account of their choice deemed worthy of incorruption and of fellowship with him. For the coming into being at first was not in our own power, and in order that we may follow those things which please him, choosing them by means of rational faculties he has given himself endowed with us, he both persuades us and leads us to faith." He writes, "Worship and love the Word, who is from the unbegotten and ineffable God, since also he became man for our sake, that, becoming a partaker of our sufferings, he might also bring us healing. For all the writers were able to see realities darkly through the sowing of the implanted Word that was in them, for the seed and imitation imparted according to the capacity is one thing, and quite another is the thing itself, for which there is participation and imitation according to the grace which is from him." And two things there. First of all, creation, that God created the world. When we look at the creation account that God created the world, we think, well, it's a simple account, a big deal. But actually, if you think about it, it has massive philosophical and scientific implications for how we know what we know, and how we do science, and how we do philosophy and thinking. Christianity's whole position is that God created the world, so that means that the world is a reality. Now, in the history of Western philosophy since Kant, there has been a moving aware that reality is real, that we can only perceive reality, we cannot fully know reality, because we don't even know if reality is there. It could be there, it might not be there, but our senses mediate that experience, and we can have some kind of information, but ultimately, philosophically, we don't know whether reality is there or not. So that is a dangerous position to be in, because ultimately you begin to move in shadows, you begin to move in theoretical shadows, and that's what happens in Western philosophy. There becomes a crisis in a theoretical construction for science, because it's moved away from its very base and root, that is the ontological position of reality. That is to say, that reality is really there as a real essence, a real is. It's really, really, really there, and we can really, really investigate it and really, really gain knowledge. But if we begin to play around with that and begin to move away from that, is what is called realism, and to move into other forms of how we know, and start to talk about our perceptions change, the formation of and mediation of reality, a reality that we do not know, then we begin to create shadows. We begin to move into subjective experience more than objective experience, and we create more philosophical problems than we actually solve. And that is why Kant, trying to save himself from Hume's skepticism, tried to defend science by giving it a kind of epistemological base. But in the end, his fight to save science didn't save science, because science lost its critical foundation of realism. And once you lose that basis as a scientist, you begin to move into shadows. That is not to say that our experience mediates our understanding of reality, but once you give up that reality as a given, from a realist point of view, then you've cut yourself off. It's kind of like a boat, a massive ocean liner. You have a little boat, lifeboat, and your rope is connected to the ocean liner, and once you move away from realism, it's like cutting the rope and you're adrift away from the ocean liner in your little boat. And that's what's happened with scientific theory. That's what's happened in philosophy. The moment you start to become so subjective, you cut yourself away from realism. You begin to move into shadows. You begin to create philosophical and scientific mythologies that are not actually rooted in any real evidential base. And there is a crisis, and has been a crisis, with modernism because of the implications of Hume's skepticism. And so the way back out of the philosophical quagmire and the need for a theoretical base for science, the way back is to come back to the Christian position of God creating the world, and that creation has a real true ontological status. And you only get that in the beautiful account of Genesis 1-2, which is so relevant today for scientific critical theory. Second thing is, he notes that Christ came in to suffer for us, and Justin Martyr is a philosopher, and he's well astute in philosophy, but for him it's not just philosophy, it's Christ and what Christ has done at the cross. That Christ redeems creation and redeems us as individuals, redeems reason as we come to know Christ as our Saviour. And if you want to understand why you're here as a scientist or a thinker, if you want to understand the meaning of life, the purpose for science, it all begins, as Justin Martyr says, we worship and love the Word, who is the unbegotten, ineffable God, since he became man for our sakes, that becoming a partaker of our sufferings, he might also bring us healing. We begin to understand who we are as we meet Jesus Christ, the creator of everything. God bless you and thank you. Take care. So why not have a read of Justin Martyr's works?